Pet Simulator 99 used to be one of the biggest games on Roblox. It had insane player counts, constant updates, and everyone was talking about it. But now, the game is dying. You'd think a game that big would still be thriving, but what if I told you that was far from the truth? And the reason isn't just because people got bored, because behind the flashy pets, big updates, and weekly events was a growing problem: greed. This game slowly turned into one of the most pay-to-win games on Roblox, and players noticed. But how did it even get to that point? Was it always like this, and can the devs still save it, or is it already too late? But before we dive into how greed destroyed Pet Simulator 99, we first have to look at how it all started and how this game blew up in the first place. Pet Sim 99 was a game released by Big Games on December 1st, 2023. On release day itself, the game had already amassed over 220,000 players, and this was due to the game being the third sequel to the original Pet Simulator, which was a game that gained a lot of attention during 2018 and 2019. Off the rip, Pet Simulator 99 had a lot of players on Roblox engaged. Mostly everyone loved the game and had something positive to say. I actually think this is the best Pet Sim game, after Pet Sim 1 of course. It seems like it's really well made and it's extremely free to play. Thank you, Big Games team. But what the community didn't know was that Big Games would use this same positive feedback to feed their real goals. Nonetheless, at the time of release, Pet Simulator 99 was one of the most talked about games on Roblox. Most of this hype was transferred from Pet Simulator X, which was by far Big Games' biggest game. The game is sitting at nearly 9 billion visits, but the game had two huge problems. It was repetitive and extremely pay to win. This led to the inevitable death of the game, which was why Pet Simulator 99 was created. And the story behind it is scarily similar to the one of Pet Simulator X, as you'll see later on in the video. But for the first few updates, the game was doing pretty well. 700,000 concurrent players, millions of views about the game on every platform, a 97 like ratio, and most importantly, a happy community that was grateful about the game. But there was one topic that stood out that made players the most grateful. The game wasn't as pay to win as previous games. While the game had multiple game passes and developer products, it was nothing compared to the outrageous prices their previous games had. On January 20th, 2024, a little over a month of the release of the game, Big Games decided to release some questionable things. They'd release 2 more new game passes to Pet Sim 99. Along this, they'd also add a new exclusive egg. While this wasn't rare to happen, players didn't really like the fact the game had 2 new game passes added, and one of these game passes, the Super Drops game pass, was pretty OP, as it gave players more OP drops more often, which was essential to progress and get rich in the game. Was the game slowly spiraling into the same tracks as Pet Simulator X did? But the community had hope. Big Games would obviously listen to their community and calm down with the microtransactions, right? Wrong. The very next update, Big Games decided to add a new game pass and tons of new items locked behind a paywall. While most argue that you can just grind for gems, you either need a ton of time or get lucky to even stand a chance to own a Titanic pet, which at the time was the rarest rarity of a pet you could obtain. Most of these Titanics were only obtainable from exclusive eggs or merch from their website store, which were of course locked behind a paywall too. And these Titanics were not cheap at all. They would go for $250 each. This was a problem that Pet Simulator X also faced and ultimately led to its own downfall. On March 16th, 2024, Pet Simulator introduced a new shop feature that wouldn't only change Pet Simulator, but Roblox forever. Big Games decided to add a forever pack, which in short term is just infinite gambling. You pay a price to progress through the pack. It gets more and more expensive every purchase, but the rewards get more and more OP. And once players were hooked to this forever pack, they'd implement it to almost every update in the future. It was now mid-2024 and the game had been out for a couple of months now, and while the player count was still consistently high, the repetition of gameplay and immense monetization were slowly driving players away. But Big Games team did exactly what they're best at. They ignored everyone and kept pumping out ways to make money, whether it be exclusive eggs, Titanic and huge pets, or even rugs that were priced at $50. It it seemed like big games were purposely trying to end Pet Simulator 99. But on August 10th, 2024, the RNG event was uploaded. What seemed like just another update for Pet Simulator would turn out to be one of their most successful updates ever, and this was not only reflected in the player count but also their pockets. Quickly, the update sparked a surge in player count and the game was looking alive again. This only made them want to capitalize more though, which is why soon after the update they'd announced they were considering making a standalone RNG pet game. While the majority of players were fine with this, the ones that weren't were worried that this new game would shift the focus of big games entirely, and while big games ensured that wouldn't be the case, not everyone quite believed them, and these assumptions would only grow to be more true whenever big games delayed updates on Pet Simulator 99 to focus on working on their new game. On October 11th, 2024, big games finally released Pets Go. The game quickly peaked at 270,000 players just 1 week after release. While this was good for the game had one huge problem. It was of course heavily monetized. It was one of the only games on Roblox where you could spend 1 million Robux and still not complete the game. It was by far the biggest cash grab made by big games, and since they saw this method work, they didn't even consider to stop adding exclusive eggs and merch into Pet Simulator 99. Not only this, but Pet Simulator 99's player count was at an all-time low, with peaks as low as 40,000 players. Most players described the game as dead, and there was one word to describe why this was: greed. Big Games was more interested in Pets Go not only because it was more popular, but mainly because the game was making them millions of real dollars. Throughout the rest of 2024, both games would update weekly, which was unexpected of Big Games as most players expected there to be delays on Pet Simulator. But there was probably a good reason why Big Games never gave up on PS99. You see, while Pets Go was still insanely popular, it was slowly losing players. But on the other hand, Pet Simulator 99 was starting to make a comeback. The reason was probably because it was nearing Christmas, which traditionally is one of Pet Simulator's most anticipated updates. And when Christmas came around this year, the player count didn't disappoint. The game peaked at nearly 200,000 players, which was a number that wasn't seen in nearly 4 months. Not only this, but Big Games decided to stop releasing Titanic plushies. This is exactly what everyone had been asking for since the beginning. It felt like Pet Simulator 99 was back once again. The future was looking bright, but that was far from the truth. You see, after the hype of Christmas went away, players didn't stick around for longer. This would be a common event that the game would face. Nonetheless, Pet Sim 99 was back to all-time low numbers of 60,000 players. While most developers only dream of these numbers, Big Games wanted more. Throughout 2025, they kept releasing weekly events. Most of these events were fun, but players were getting tired of just having events every week. The game was still very pay to win. At this point, everyone just accepted that the game was going to be like this forever. But that's exactly what Big Games wanted. They wanted everyone to get used to the gambling and money spending tied to their game. While monetization is essential for a game to thrive, there's a difference between supporting your game and being greedy. Fast forward to this day, and now Big Games has basically admitted to giving up on the game, with Preston publicly saying, "We moved on, Roblox stopped showing the games to people, too expensive to run." But of course not before releasing 3 new Titanics. Players now feel betrayed and lied to. Big Games had to squeeze one last cash grab before announcing that they're basically giving up on the game forever. Big Games should always be an example as to why you should never choose greed over generosity. If Big Games ever decides to release another sequel, which has been brought up before, the only way the game will prevail is if they leave behind a heavy monetization. Otherwise, the game will follow the same paths as all of their games so far. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed, then consider watching one of these videos up on your screen right now.